Hey everybody, I want to talk about a couple of manipulation techniques that men and women use on each other in relationships. And these are things that have always sort of been in front of our faces, and maybe we kind of know what they are, but never really quantified it. Some of this might actually just be some common sense stuff for people that have actually thought pretty deeply about this. But the thing is, some of these things are so common that just in our day-to-day activities, we just don't ever register it as, my partner is trying to get me to do something, right? Because, well, if you have a partner, that's pretty much what you do back and forth. You're always asking, talking to each other and asking each other to, do things and get through life together, right? But that opens us up to some subtle manipulation tactics that also fly under the radar. So I want to sort of bring these up. So men and women manipulate each other in different ways. And I'm not just using this term to mean like toxic manipulation. I mean just, hey, will you go do this? There's a dynamic involved, like as a couple, a partnership, a relationship, right? So manipulation, I'm just using that as a term to mean person A desires a result from person B, okay? Some of these things can be toxic, and toxic things can certainly masquerade underneath the cover of these things. But still, as I said, it's not all toxic, so don't freak out and don't suddenly think that your relationship is toxic because you heard me say it. So let's get into this. I want to talk about how men manipulate women, first of all. I think this is something that women, whenever they first hear it, something else comes to mind. But I had a friend once tell me something that was absolutely brilliant. And he told me this. And at first my initial reaction to what he said was of shock. And I thought he was absolutely wrong. And then I thought about it and he explained it further and I realized he's actually right. So don't freak out when I say this. He said, women want to be told what to do. And I was like, what? No, that's not the case. He goes, no, hear me out. Women want to be told what to do with conditions. And then he said, like, if you have a plan, like a whole plan that's mapped out and drawn out, and you explain the plan, how the plan works, and where she fits in the plan, and what she's expected to do, she'll do it because she wants to be a good partner, and that's what partners do. You tell them what to do and why, and all of the reasons behind it, and they'll do it because most people, the majority of people, strive to be dependable, reliable people. And so then I thought about it again, and I was like, oh, okay, right? And so I've tried that out, and I found it's mostly true, so long as they agree with the plan, right? So there's a difference there. But yeah, for the most part, men are seen as being sort of, the ones with the drive. They've got the plan, the goals, everything mapped out. Women are better typically at identifying the interrelatedness of everything in the environment and dependencies, right? So whereas the man will have the compass and saying, hey, we're going that way, that's the way we need to go, and we need to cross these boundaries, etc., etc. Women will be looking at the same plan and saying, well, that looks kind of marshy over there, we need to have mosquito repellent, right? These are just rough examples, right, of by and large the functioning of the male and female brain in a relationship. But yeah, this is one of the most common ways that men will manipulate women, is to make the women believe that they're the man with the plan. They've got these grand ideas. It's gonna work. Trust me, it's gonna work. I need you to do this. I need you to do that. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And women will go do it. Well, then if his side of the plan just doesn't work out, there's a reason for it and an excuse for it, right? But thank you for doing your part, right? So if you're wanting a woman to do something, all you have to do is come up with a plan for which you do not intend to execute your side whatsoever, but then tell her what this mythical plan is and what she's supposed to do, and by and large she'll want to go do it. And then she comes back, she says, I have faithfully done my part of the plan. How's it going on your side? And he's like, well, it's not. I decided to play video games. Whatever, right? Whatever the reason is, and they always have a reason. Now, one of the most common ways women manipulate men, there's not a... Women are so good at manipulation. It's a big part of the relationship dynamic. And understand, again, like I said, it's not always toxic. So, don't freak out. But and there's no one set list of rules. Women, like I said before, the brain is geared mostly towards the interconnectedness of things in their lives, right? So A relates to B, B relates to C. The paycheck is related to the car note's related to the daycare is related to the kids, those types of things. When the way women manipulate men, first of all, is through most often sex, right? But it's not always so straightforward. Like, hey, I need a gallon of milk. Round, jump on him, and then say afterwards, oh, now that we've had sex, can you get a gallon of milk? No, it's not like that, right? It's more subtle, the way that women tend to use sex. So they use things like vulnerability, sensitivity, femininity, to kind of sort of latch into some of the male instincts to protect and provide. So I'll give a good example. There's a flow protocol that I like to call it, where overwhelmingly you can see this pattern, and some of you ladies know what this is. Some of you have done it. Some of you have seen other ladies do it, and you've lost all respect for the men, right? When a woman wants to get something out of a guy, like in a toxic manner, or maybe even not a toxic manner, but just in the way that guarantees the highest rate of success, here's what she'll do. First, she'll ask, hey, so, and she'll be very indirect, right? So they try to minimize the risk of rejection, because if you have this flow chart, if you have this protocol that you follow, you don't want to strike out on step one, right? So you float the idea. Hey, so I was thinking it would be great to blah, 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 right? You're not asking a question. You're just taking the temperature, right? So women will never ever set themselves up to risk a rejection right away. Like, that's never the first step. It's always stages of rejection-free steps initially. I was thinking about this. I was wondering about that. Hey, you know what I thought of the other day? So it's a rejection-free method of getting your brain to think about it. From the man's perspective, it's okay, start having to think about formulating plans to get from point A to point B, right? So that sort of pre-constructs a plan in his mind subconsciously, right? Because if she's talking about it, you have to think about things. When people talk, you have to first construct it in your head, and then after it's constructed, then you formulate thoughts and opinions. So in this first step, they're just creating the virtual construction in the man's head, just by talking about it, by virtue of talking about it, and not setting it up for an immediate pass or fail. Now, some guys that have learned this over time, they say, oh yeah, I was thinking about, the time we went to Vegas, and maybe hopefully one day we'll go again. And then sometimes there'll be a guy who'll say, yeah, we should totally do that, start saving. That's usually a good reply. Well, start saving. If it's something where the guy immediately detects that there's this protocol being followed, if it's something that she at the end of the day, if her goal is to get the man to do something and he catches it at the very beginning, then there's a number of triages that women will go through. So let's say you float the idea, and he just voluntarily rejects it, even though you didn't put yourself in that position. He just comes out right away and says, no, we're not doing that ever. Well, then the next step is to use skin contact and to get close. So closeness, interpersonal closeness, being sweet, vulnerable, playful, right? If the brain's working, the best way to shut down a man's brain is through sex. Well, men and women both. Science has actually determined that in the presence of an attractive person, the cognitive centers of the brain, the decision-making parts of the brain, will literally shut down. That does give some merit to whenever somebody's caught cheating and they're like, it was a mistake. I don't know. She came on to me and she just started and I couldn't stop, or vice versa. It's like, I didn't want that, but it just kind of just happened. I don't know how it happened. There is a little bit of validity to that. I don't know how it happened, right? Because the cognitive centers shut down. You don't think so much, right? That doesn't excuse it, but that's where that comes from. Because the next defense is, well, you should have never put yourself in that position to begin with. And there's that defense, because, when you still have the ability to think, you should think, I should not put myself in that position, because things could happen, right? So, by getting close, flirting a little bit, or what I call the little booby brush, where you hold his hand or you come up close and you just boop, like boop a titty on him. This could be on like the side of his arm, as you like hold his arm, or laying in bed. If you're wearing a tank top, no bra, or maybe no shirt at all, and you just roll over and drop a titty on him. Or put your hand on his chest, that kind of stuff, and then say, I was just thinking about all the fun times we had at Vegas and all of that. All of that skin contact is going to shut down the cognitive centers in the brain, and so that increases, the chances of a success, right? But again, you're trying not to set yourself up for rejection, right? So it's still kind of vague talk, right? Or you'll say something like, well, it's something I really want to do, so what would it take for us to get there, right? Because now it's not, should we do it? It's what would it take? So that's a rejection-free approach. Then if that doesn't work, then they nag. They annoy. They get anger. They get angry. They make your life a living hell, right? So then if talking about it sweetly didn't work, snuggles didn't work, then they just try to nag you into oblivion. They start annoying. That's whenever they get aggressive. We never do anything. We need to take a vacation. Our relationship is suffering. We never do anything special because you're always wanting to do blank, right? Keep in mind, this is not just women to men. Men can also do this to women, right? But that's basically it. It goes from just a gentle insinuations to sexual whims to aggressive submission tactics. So yeah, this just covers. These are just a few really, really basic tactics. Like I said, the vast majority of relationships will do these things with good, honest intent and as part of the actual relationship dynamic. But it's also important to recognize them for what they are, because sometimes there could be something toxic lying under the surface. And this is one of the ways that they inject toxicity and manipulation into the relationship, just, with this camouflage on it. So thanks again for watching. Join the discussion on Facebook. I got a Facebook group. Not a lot of people have been joining, so if you're not in it, join it. It's Narcissistectomy. It stands out. It's pretty easy to find. come hang out on Facebook. We'll talk there. Otherwise, please like, comment, or share, and I'll see y'all on the next video.